Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. With a special coroner's court now clearing retired Detective Sergeant Wayne Jacobs of any wrongdoing in the April 2015 shooting death of fellow police officer Constable K'Mar Beckford, who was killed while carrying out an early morning robbery in Hopewell, Hanover, it has seemingly confirmed what many persons have claimed. The deceased policeman was an undercover criminal. Following Beckford's death, members of his family took the media to task for reporting the police's official version of the incident, claiming that Beckford was murdered and incriminating evidence planted at the scene of the shooting to make it look as if he was committing a crime. In the incident, which occurred shortly after 1 a.m. at Lorna's Bar in the popular Hanover Township, a masked-wearing Beckford with gun in hand rushed into the bar and began robbing the patrons. He was however challenged by an off-duty colleague who was also a patron. In an ensuing shooting incident, the brave policeman who challenged his rogue colleague suffered 3 bullet wounds but still managed to outgun Beckford. A female patron was also shot and injured in the incident. In this edition of Lest You Forget, I will be revisiting that incident from one of 2 stories I wrote for the Gleaner, which was published on April 4, 2015 under the headline Policeman Killed by a Colleague During Robbery in Hanover Linked to Several Other Crimes. You cannot be a police and a thief at the same time. That can't work, were the words of a young man who was part of the crowd trying to sneak a peep at the body of K'Mar Beckford, a policeman who was stationed at Bethel Town Police Station in Westmoreland. Beckford was fatally shot by a fellow member of the police force during an attempt robbery in Hopewell, Hanover, early yesterday morning. As more persons viewed Beckford's body, it quickly became obvious that he could have been operating on the dark side for quite some time, as several persons identified him as a person who had robbed them in recent incidents in the Western Parish. 2 weeks ago he robbed me as I stopped my car to let off a young lady in Sandy Bay, also in Hanover, said a policeman who asked not to be identified. As I stopped the car, I just feel the gun in the back of my head, and him said, "Pussy, give me everything you have," the cop told the Sunday Gleaner. According to the policeman, he had a good look at his now deceased colleague's face and recognized him, but was not able to place him at the time of the robbery. However, as he looked at Beckford's body yesterday morning, he recalled that they used to reside in the same Hanover community at one time. "I used to see him around, but he wasn't a person I talked to," said the policeman. "It is him same one, and a number of victims of recent robbery have positively identified him since morning," added the policeman. According to reports, shortly after 1 a.m. yesterday, Beckford, who was wearing a mask, entered a bar in Hopewell with a gun in his hand and began robbing patrons. He was challenged by an off-duty policeman who was a patron in the bar, and a shootout ensued. If Jacob was not really brave, it could have been a case of mass murder inside the bar, because once the shooting started, it was like going through a minefield, a patron who escaped unarmed told the Sunday Gleaner. "I believe the cop who challenged his rogue colleague should get a medal for her bravery, because he stood his ground and did what he had to do." As news of the shooting spread, a large crowd, including a number of persons said to be friends of the deceased cop, blocked the main road in front of the bar as they desperately tried to get a look at the body. "This must be a lesson to all those policemen who are involved in crime," said one onlooker, as the scream of a woman said to be a relative of the dead policeman pierced the ear. While most of the onlookers showed no sympathy for Beckford, other persons, especially his friends, were still puzzled by the incident. "We grew up together in Copperwood. His mother grew him well. He never wanted for nothing as a child," a female acquaintance of the deceased policeman told the Gleaner. "When I heard that he was killed and I learned of the circumstances, I just couldn't believe it. That was the last thing I was expecting to hear about Becky." Beckford's alleged action has cast an ugly shadow over his family, especially his mother, who is the guidance counselor at a prominent Hanover High School, as well as a respected member of her community. This woman spent her life trying to fix the life of wayward children in her capacity as a guidance counselor, and look how her own child has trashed her reputation. It is such a disgrace, a teacher who knew the mother well told the Gleaner. Knowing her, she must be hurting real bad and questioning her fate. According to the report, shortly after 1 a.m. on Saturday morning, the 25-year-old Beckford, who is a graduate of Rosie's High School, drove a car which is believed to be owned by his mother to the bar in Hanover. There he donned a mask and with gun in hand proceeded inside and began to rob. The car he drove there was parked about 40 yards from the bar. The engine was left running and the driver's side door was left open, a police investigator told the Gleaner. The police have seized the car. It is now at the Lucy police station. According to a female friend of the deceased policeman, who asked not to be identified, Beckford joined the Jamaica Constabulary Force fresh out of high school as a 19-year-old. Initially, it was said he was quite enthusiastic about the job. He was quite focused when he first joined the force, said the woman. However, in recent time, he appeared somewhat distracted. I don't know if it was as a result of him not getting a promotion or what. Unknown to his friends, Beckford had seemingly started going rogue some time ago based on recent reports from various persons, including a policeman who claimed he robbed them at Gunfight in Sandy Bay, Hanover, just over 2 weeks ago. However, subsequent to Beckford's death, news surfaced that residents in several St. Elizabeth communities were celebrating his death, as according to them, he was a notorious ganja thief who had been plaguing them for quite some time. In looking back at that incident, there is no question that it was one of those unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica. Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. Please subscribe to get more irresistible content of unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica.